Hello, everyone. So I'm back. I'm here to tell you guys all about Two Gentlemen of Verona. Uh, I'm avoiding writing a Chaucer paper for my class on Chaucer about love and chivalry and art in The Knight's Tale. So I figured, what better way to avoid doing homework than to bake cookies and simultaneously work on my weblog? Right. Actually, interestingly enough, The Knight's Tale and all of Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales have a source text in common with Two Gentlemen of Verona, Boccaccio's The Decameron, which, if any of you have ever seen the movie Virgin Territory, that's basically Boccaccio's The Decameron. I love how I'm sure Boccaccio is thrilled that his seminal classic masterpiece has been turned into a bad teen movie starring Misha Barton and Hayden Christensen. Who'd have thought? So I was wrong. Comedy of Errors is actually might not be Shakespeare's first play. Two Gentlemen of Verona actually might be earlier in 91. Also, the most famous occurrence of this play takes place in Shakespeare in Love. If you guys have seen that movie, if you haven't, you're crazy because you need to. But in this movie, that's the play that's being acted out at Elizabeth's court. Cease to persuade my loving Proteus, and it's the speech that Gwyneth Paltrow's character Viola gives when she auditions for Romeo and Juliet. The "What light is light if Sylvia be not seen." So, in short, just see Shakespeare in Love, and basically that's this blog. So I'll be honest. They said that this was Shakespeare's worst play, and Act 1 is pretty sappy. We have two best friends, Valentine and Proteus. Valentine leaves to go spend some time in the company of the Emperor. Meanwhile, Proteus has this lady named Julia who tears up one of his letters, and then after she tears it up in front of her maid, kisses it, holds it to her breast. Proteus is walking around like, oh my god, I'm so in love with Julia. Oh, sweet love, sweet lines, sweet life. And then his father decides he's going to send him away to the court of the Emperor, where Valentine is. And Proteus is not happy about this as Act 1 closes. So Shakespeare probably didn't realize this when he wrote this play, but the character Speed, most likely on speed. So Act 2 follows in much the same vein. We have Proteus leaving for the court in Milan to join Valentine, and he leaves his lady Julia, and it's like the final scene of Titanic. It's so dramatic. We also meet Sylvia, who's Valentine's love, and for some reason she seems more to me to be a cold-ass honky than any sort of worthy love for him. There's also a guy named Lance, who has a dog named Crab. Proteus arrives at court and meets Sylvia, who Valentine is talking to, and just proceeds to really put down Sylvia in the next conversation with Valentine. But plot twist, he has his own motives because he has indeed fallen in love with Sylvia. This whole thing gets explained between the two servants, Speed and Lance. And I just have to point out this great line. He asks, how then, shall he marry her? And Lance says, no, neither. And then Speed says, what, are they broken? And Lance says, no, they are both whole as a fish. Act 2, Scene 6 consists entirely of a monologue by Proteus, in perhaps the deepest thought we've seen Shakespeare's characters up to this point. This monologue reveals that he plans to foil Valentine's plans of meeting Sylvia at her window. Proteus is going to tell Sylvia's father that this is going on, and really at this point we know it can only end in tears. Meanwhile, back at the farm, Julia is starting to think something's up because Proteus hasn't come back yet. He hasn't written to her, anything like that. So Julia, in regular Shakespearean comedy fashion, decides to take up the dress of a boy and leave to go to Milan to check things out, which nobody can blame her, and this is a pretty common stereotype in Shakespeare's writing, which is an interesting thing, that to be able to take charge of your own life as a woman, you have to first dress up as a man. Act 3 involves the royal screwing over of poor Valentine, when Proteus tells the Duke that he's going to be at Sylvia's window, and Valentine is basically caught red-handed trying to sneak into her window, and I'm sure do unmentionable things to her, because apparently she likes him back. Weird. But Valentine is caught and basically banished from the city. This is where he gives the lovely, what light is light if Sylvia be not seen, what joy is joy if Sylvia be not by. And it's all very melodramatic, and then the servants come in and basically goof off for about a page and a half. And then we get this scene between the Duke, Thurio, and Proteus. Now, Thurio is one of Sylvia's other suitors who she doesn't like at all. But basically, Proteus is trying to dissuade the Duke from letting Thurio marry Sylvia. And that brings us to Act 4. Enter certain outlaws. I would like to point out that the outlaws in Act 4, Scene 1 are perfectly aware that they're outlaws and even make a reference to Robin Hood, which is absolutely wonderful. Then they go on to say why they were outlawed. And the first is because he was practicing to steal away a lady. And then the other outlaw is, he's done another petty crime. And then the third outlaw is like, and I from Mantua, for a gentleman who, in my mood, I stabbed unto the heart. I really wouldn't want to be hanging out with these guys, but Valentine seems to think it's a good idea and joins up with them. So right after we meet the outlaws, we have a scene with Sylvia and Sir Eglamour, which is obviously so French, it's not even funny. He knocks on Sylvia's window and she says, "Hey, Sir Eglamour, I'm really sad about Valentine being taken away. Do you want to take me to Mantua?" And he's like, maybe this will help me get in her pants. So he agrees to take her away to Mantua. Really interesting scene with Julia and Sylvia. There's a line that Sylvia gives Julia. How tall was she? Talking about Proteus's lover back in Verona. This is really interesting because we see this pop up in Midsummer Night's Dream, too. There seems to be this theme of tall women being able to woo men because they're tall, which, is great news for me at 5'7". Julia, dressed as Sebastian, Thurio, Proteus, and the Duke all go out looking for her while she's on her way to in the woods. And meanwhile, she's captured by outlaws and taken to their leader. Plot twist, who is Valentine. So after Sylvia is kidnapped by the outlaws and brought to Valentine, basically everybody shows up in the woods to this huge party where there are outlaws, there are servants, there's the Duke, there's Thurio, there's Proteus, Valentine, and Julia ends up having a conversation with Proteus about their love back in Verona. She's still disguised as Sebastian at this point. And once she reveals her identity, everything goes back to normal. Proteus is like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot I was in love with you, by the way. We should get married." And she's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And Valentine's like, "I'm gonna marry Sylvia." And the Duke's like, "All right, sounds good." And basically that's how the play ends. Clearly we can tell this is one of Shakespeare's early works. The one thing I learned in the reading of this was, please leave your Valentine's Day candy at home. You don't need it with this much sweetness. Please stay tuned to see the next video. It's probably going to be on Midsummer Night's Dream because we open in like 2.5 weeks, and I'm a little bit terrified. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Oh, please, I'm not going to wink anymore. That was